All right, hello and welcome back, guys. Today we're going to do another tier list. This time it's going to be Advent, since the last tier list seemed to have been appreciated by a lot of people. This thought this would be a good idea to make another one, and this time we're going to do Advent. And I have my dear friend KissBlade here to help me with the Advent because Kiss, hello, you are an experienced Advent player,
Hello. Yeah, I would say at this point probably I would be considered one of the more experienced admin players in the community. Have been
right?
playing them since launch, exclusively practically.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I played a bunch of games against you, and yeah, you definitely know your way around the advent and the ins and outs, the research tree, and so on. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think this is going to be very interesting to see.
yeah, I may have been responsible for some of the advent nerfs in 1.32 patch.
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
but
but
that's interesting. Yeah, sorry, no,
yeah, I was just gonna say, but we were tired of hearing people complain about advent the whole time. Even though,
right,
I mean, I do think Advent was very strong in 1.31,
right,
probably a little
yeah,
too overtuned.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Unity abilities were very strong, but it's interesting because there was recently a patch, right? And a lot of things have changed, I feel like,
Yes,
especially with the
yes.
exotic system. And yeah, I'm just curious to hear where do you think Advent stands right now after these changes, just in general?
I think you're able to compete with all the factions. It's still going to be like essentially like a skill matchup, for the most part. I think you'll have a rough time, early game against Vasari. So if the map spawn is not very favorable, you really have to know what you're doing, and you have to lean a lot on well, one of the units we're going to talk about later at some point. I feel the disciples.
Uh huh. Right, right.
And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because you said even before these changes that like the early capital ships of Vasari are very difficult to deal with Advent. They don't have many tools in their like tier 1 or 2 even toolbox um,
yeah,
to kind of
to
stop.
trade well into them. Yes, correct.
Yeah, yeah. But outscales the Vasari in the mid game, if I understand correctly, with
Yeah,
their increased supply and all that. Yeah, yeah. But
yeah. Because the Advent Tier 2 supply tech is 1,000 fleet supply, and the Vasari Tier 2 tech is 600. And often what you're gonna see is Vasari is gonna go like a 1-4 play, which is in other words like civilian tech 1, military tech 2, and then you're kind of going to try to match the same with Advent. But toward the end of like the tier 2 timing, the Advent fleet supply will just outmass and catch up. You'll have Guardians also rotate and things like that.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the problems, right? With the or not problems, but yeah, one of the key matchup things with Vasari versus Advent,
Yep.
the supply difference in the tier 2, right? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
yeah. All right, but without further ado, let's try to get into the ships, I guess. So yeah, I have every ship here. Probably some of these are kind of redundant, but we're still gonna go through them. So we have the seeker vessel first. It's
Yeah,
just
so
a
that's the
scout.
scout.
Yeah. So yeah, you can tell me, but I would put this in the. Oh, I actually didn't uh,
Renamed them. Okay.
rename that. So I'm just gonna do that real quick.
Uh-huh.
But here we go.
So we got the OP, great, solid, situational,
Yeah.
and avoid.
Right. All right. There we go. So where would we place the seeker vessel? When I did the tech one, I placed the seeker vessel in solid. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, so the Advent doesn't have as much reliance on the secret vessel as other factions,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely it's always like decent to build. In fact, on random maps, you might even consider opening two secret vessels with the house on start because especially at Reborn, because then this way you could like kind of try to look for where the juiciest derelicts are, because Reborn gets a tech that lets you like capture them very, very quickly.
Oh, true, true,
So
true, true. Yeah.
if you are Reborn, opening two secret vessels extra to get like just to get faster map vision is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Advent used to have like a tier one research into free map hack back in the old pre-Unity change patch.
Mm-hmm.
That actually got removed because you have to build at least one Unity temple now to use the abilities. You used to not have to. You used to be able to research one tech and you get a Unity point and focus regen for free, and then you put that in clairvoyance. So
Yeah.
that of course then alleviates a lot of the need to have as
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
scouts. But scouts are always very useful. Obviously, leaving, especially as you know, in our like 1v1 games, leaving a scout in the choke and then turning off the auto scout just to like get the advanced intel is like a key play in like 1v1, 2v2, 3v3s.
Right.
In
Yeah.
five, less so because five, you kind of like more or less already know where your opponent's coming from after a while.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think solid is a is reasonable.
Yeah. And both Wrath, if I remember, both Wrath and Reborn have access to clairvoyance, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's but yeah, I can see what you're saying. Because of clairvoyance, this might not be as important as for other factions, but still a good choice overall. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have the Acolyte Corvette. Now, where do we want to put this? This is
Oh.
situational at best, right?
Oh, okay, so you're never seeing this ship. Yeah, it's gonna be going straight to the avoid here.
All right. All right.
The problem is it just doesn't do anything that you want for when it comes into play. Because ideally, at the timing where like it comes into play, you may want to use it to like kind of help keep up the AM antimatter for your guardians, your dominus, so like the tier 3 time, right?
Yeah.
But at tier 3, your acolytes are gonna die very
Right.
quickly.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like anything, they fall over to a stiff freeze. The
Right.
damage for acolytes is pretty negligible on most things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they just don't have a place, especially because Advent has a brilliance array at tier 3. So exactly the tier that you need antimatter regen, you have a tech specifically for a ship item
Mm-hmm.
that gives you antimatter regen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the acolyte's like even more useless because that item exists. Like if that item didn't exist, if you're desperate, you may consider building the acolyte, but even then,
Yeah.
I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't. I have not built this thing for a long, long, long
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And I think you never basically see this in any games, and I think it's for a good
Yeah,
reason too. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of in an identity crisis, I feel like.
yeah,
As you say, like you antimatter regen is kind of a late game thing because that's where you want your abilities the most in late game, where you want to like cast your abilities continuously and so on. But
yeah.
in the late game, a Corvette is just it doesn't it just doesn't hold up. It
Exactly.
dies way too
And
quickly. Yeah.
yeah, and also like you really so Advent has three capital ships where you may run out of antimatter. That's the Halcyon, because telekinetic push is very, very antimatter dependent. The Rapture, if you leave everything on autocast, because usually what you do with the Rapture is you take Dominate and you take what is it called? The why can't I not think of this spell? The very first spell, Vertigo,
Oh,
right?
Vertigo. Yeah.
And if you kind of have both of them on autocast because you're just too busy towards the end of the game, right? You might run out of antimatter, and then the also the progenitor. Funny enough, the
Mm-hmm.
progenitor can run out of antimatter very quickly
Mm-hmm.
because of
Mm-hmm.
shield restore. Shield restore actually costs a lot if you
Yeah.
just simply leave it on autocast.
Yeah.
So those three ships, but those three ships you could just build the antimatter battery on them, like the consumable item. if you are aware of this kind of like their shortcomings.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
late game, as I said, tier 3, your Guardian with Mend will consume a lot of antimatter,
Yeah.
and your Dominus will consume a lot of antimatter if you happen to have like both their spells on autocast.
Mhm.
But acolytes at that timing are just completely just pointless. So your early game needs are covered by your item consumables, and your mid game needs are slash late game needs are not covered by the acolyte anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the acolyte would have benefit if it just did less damage but were way tankier.
Yeah, yeah. That would have actually been a cool design choice
Yeah, yeah,
if they just were kind of a utility thing that you used
exactly.
to.
Pure utility,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, all right, interesting. Yeah, but okay, avoid tier for now. See if anything changes in the future. But yeah, I can definitely get behind this. Okay, and now we have the disciple vessel. I really like this one personally. I would like to
Mhm.
put it here at least. What do you think?
So I think this is interesting. I think Disciple depends on whether you play Wrath or Reborn. I
Mm-hmm.
think if you play Reborn, Disciples are probably great in like great tier. They're very, very good because their
Oh.
main weakness then is going to be the fact that they're vulnerable to AoE. And as Reborn, you have that handy cleanse spell, which AoE heals.
Mm.
So
Mm.
Reborn,
I
I
see.
think disciples are very, very good. They're
Okay.
probably in great.
Okay.
As Wrath, though you don't have that spell, but you do have Avatar. But the problem is Avatar is very expensive compared to in terms of like the investment needed compared to Reborn. So it's a little tricky. I would say like you could probably put them at the very tailor end of great. So I
Right.
changed
Yeah.
my mind,
Yeah.
you'll notice, because I initially had them all the way down in situational, but as I played more on this patch, I think that disciples are just very good. And I actually always liked disciples, even back in patch 1.31 when they had the speed buff. I think they handle a lot of matchups really well
Yeah. Yeah.
they're because I don't know about the other light frigates, but I don't believe kobolds can shoot while moving. If I'm correct, they can't shoot while moving, right?
I think they can. I think they
Oh, they
can.
can. Okay, because
Yeah. I had to double check, but I would spontaneously I would say they can. Yeah.
okay, so I'm not sure about like whether kobolds can shoot while moving, but the fact that disciples could shoot while moving is really really nice
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're so fast ever since the speed change.
Yeah. The
So I
speed
would say like they
changes
probably
really.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They really shoot up the light frigates after the speed changes. That's
Yeah, so I would put them actually at great. I think that
yeah. Yeah.
they should be a core staple of like Advent play now, because you need something for the early game. Uh, like obviously we because if we're talking about fives, right? Let's put if we're talking about 5v5, I think disciples you're probably gonna put in situational tier. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about because in 5v5, there's no reason not to play Eco as Advent. Like it's just a bad idea to put Advent on edge because Advent has such a strong mid game and has such a strong weak early game. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're playing like let's say 3v3 or 1v1, 2v2, then disciples like really really are necessary in your arsenal because otherwise you just can't survive and contest the early game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So a
So yeah.
great early game tool for Advent. That's a staple in any situation where you have to fend off. Like you have to get through the early game. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And they're actually very good mid game too. Like especially at Reborn. Like I said, if you're Reborn,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you show up with like 150, 100 to 150
Yeah.
disciples,
Yeah.
and you have like a bunch of guardians behind them that you could just keep cleansing. Like let's say like you don't even need that many. You just have like 10, 15 guardians behind them. You could catch a lot of opponents off guard and just outright kill them.
Yeah. Yeah. Cleanse. I hadn't thought about that, but cleanse very very good indeed. Like
Yes,
yeah, very good
cleanse
against
totally
AOE.
changes up. Yeah, cleanse totally changes how good disciples are for reborn, in my opinion.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
I've always said even before this patch, I said that that Reborn really should be looking at subcap play. I understand that everyone loved capitals back then, but I do think that it was very underexplored in terms of just mass subcap and rushing because I think people really don't necessarily maximize the aggression windows that they have. There's very few
right,
players who are like who
right,
kind of
right,
do like probably like only math would have been like one of the few players I could think of, right?
right.
Who can kind of like smell blood. But yeah,
Yeah, because it's hard, right? It's hard. It's hard to take advantage of those windows.
yeah, because it's just more comfortable to be like, oh, I'll play a little bit more scaling, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right, that's great. So we're putting, yeah, Disciple's a great tool then. And we have, okay, so Missionary Vessel. This is one of those perhaps redundant ones, but
Yeah, yeah, you
yes,
guys just put them wherever you think.
yeah, okay, okay,
Because
we're
I
put,
mean, yeah, you need them, right? You sometimes
yeah,
need them, and
yeah, yeah,
actually, you almost always need them because
yeah.
you're eventually gonna side expand anyway with like
Right,
some
right. And I would
disciples. And
say because
yeah,
the progenitor isn't like the most popular start with Advent, so
hmm
then you kind of have to go for at least two missionary
yeah,
vessels most of the time, right?
yeah,
Even if you're, or perhaps just one with the colony seed nanites to back up a ship. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. I agree. If you're Wrath, there are some fun tricks you could do with expanding. If you kind of like if you pay attention to the map layout and you see an opportunity for it, you could technically do some expansions with Wrath temples. So you don't necessarily need them as often. But even
right,
then,
yeah,
like depending on the map spawn, it's like almost always you're gonna want one missionary vessel because right now, like just being able to race to like especially because the core planets in the center of the map can now spawn desert, so if you see a desert or a Terran spawn, you don't want to stick, as you know, you don't want to stick around in Folklore. You just kill like the siege colonies, the siege frigates, and then now you have like a protected end
right,
game
yeah,
planet.
yeah, yeah. That's actually something that I need to do more often. Actually, leaving the neutral militia to actually to be act as a defensive measure on the planet, so you have a
Yeah,
free garrison. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
really don't think that's intended, but unfortunately, it's in the game. So
yeah, yeah. Of course, you have the disadvantage that you can't build buildings on those planets, but I mean, as long as you have enough other planets to like get your labs, to get your factories, doesn't really matter, right?
yeah, but you could build a planet item on them for starters, and
Yeah,
also
yeah,
like if you
yeah.
think about it, right? What would you rather have? A ice planet that you could build the orbitals on, or a full Terran planet that you cannot build orbitals? You would take the Terran planet any day of the week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True, true. Yeah, yeah. I fully agree. I fully agree. Um, all right. So, what about the purge vessel? Where are we putting this? Do you think?
I think Purge Vessel you put into solid, maybe situational, or at the end of solid, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're pretty expensive, but like I feel like with Advent it's a little weird because your capital ships are cheaper than everyone else's. So usually you're going to have enough capital ships to start bombing once you really make that first offensive push. But if you do kind of like go for a very all-in frigate play, then purge vessels are a good kind of like cleanup tool in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Because if you have like only two capital ships and 100 disciple vessels, okay, can take quite a while to like bomb out planets, and you give your opponent a lot of breathing room to kind of do something. Uh,
right,
Trying to build turrets or yeah, do something to
yeah,
kind of stall you. Yeah, but if you just bomb planets very fast, then you're just gonna run them over if you're in an aggressive position like that. Yeah.
yeah, and I does the Akin inspiring broadcast work on Krosos?
I do think they do. Yes, I do. I think they
Yeah.
do.
So I think that's one reason why like the purge vessels are probably a little bit worse for Advent than it is for the other factions, right?
Hmm.
Because the
Hmm.
other factions actually have some sort of buffs to their siege stuff. So for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
like tech, they have Aken that they can usually like do the auto colonize afterwards. They have inspiring broadcast. They're actually also the Aken is moves at the same speed as the siege vessels, whereas the Advent, the capital ships are slower.
Hmm.
So and then the Vasari gets extra experience. The tech primacy gets extra money. So the Advent siege stuff is probably the worst out
Hmm.
of all the factions.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. And they don't
But
have
it makes
any.
sense, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have any. They don't. Okay, so I didn't know that, but they don't have any research for increasing bombing damage or anything like that in their
They do.
hostility tree.
They do. So the purge vessels share weapon research to um certain heavy capital ship guns and also the Destra. But the Destra is of course tier 4, right?
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
and also the weapon damage that the purge vessels share do not apply for the most popular Advent capital ship open, which is the Halcyon. The Halcyon does not have plasma guns.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you research that, you basically like you're not getting any benefit on the Halcyon's actual firepower. And now that you're seeing less capital ship play, you know, you don't necessarily have the radiance that's getting buffed by it, or the
Hmm.
raptures that are getting buffed by the plasma damage or weapon upgrade.
Right, right, right. The plasma
And they don't
guns.
have
Yeah,
like yeah, and they don't have stuff like, for example, the Vasari getting so much XP for bombing on a planet.
yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. But speaking of research, I think that puts us into the that's a good segue to this because I think uh, now we're getting to the Tempest vessel, and I think this is one of those more. I think this is one of the more interesting ones on this list, at least for me, because on the one hand, Tempest can be very oppressive, uh, but it also has. I mean, from what I understand, it also has some pretty major weaknesses in that the research, like with the plasma guns for the purge vessel, that perhaps doesn't scale as well with some of the other ships you build. The missile research for the Tempest also doesn't scale as well with some of the other Advent ships, as I understand it.
Yeah, because all Advent missiles have 0 pierce, all of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
So, as you can imagine, they fall off very quickly. They do get early redirect. Um, so Tempests are oppressive until they're not, and then they become totally useless.
Uh huh.
So I think they fall in the situational tier. They're probably top of the situational tier list, though, because they absolutely murder corvettes. So they're the main reason why you really cannot open defensors or raiders into Advent. You could go raiders into Advent actually, because Advent can will slack off sometimes now. If they know the matchup, they'll slack off on the Tempest because they're like because it's a bit of a mind game, right? They're gonna think, okay, it's suicidal for Vasari to open raiders against me. So sometimes Vasari could show up with like 20 raiders before you have any Tempests, and that could catch you off guard. It'll do some damage. You know, they'll pay for themselves.
Hmm.
But yeah, Tempest just against in most situations they just don't have. You're not gonna see them have play because people will not build the things that they counter in the matchup.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the
Right.
only
Yeah.
instance you should really see Tempests is if you are Advent support with a Vasari on front of you, and the Vasari is playing into a Vasari. Because Vasari versus Vasari is very defensor heavy. So if the Advent shows up to support the defensors with Tempests, then the Vasari will. overwhelmingly win the defensor matchup, which allows them to basically win the matchup overall
Right. Yeah.
entirely.
Because
Then
yeah, the Tempest just murder the corvettes, the Vasari corvettes, or just corvettes in general. Yeah.
yes, any corvettes in general, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, because that's been kind of my impression with the Tempest is that for early game fighting, it's kind of there's nothing that really matches it because it's so versatile with its 360-degree firing arc. But you can't really like finish people off with it uh, uh, too often. That's my impression, at least, because you have
Yeah.
you don't you
Hmm.
can't really deal with structures with them, and you can't really. Um, it's difficult to finish off capital ships with them unless you have like super overwhelming numbers. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and the only capital ships you're really gonna uh take that threaten with an overwhelming number of Tempest is ironically the probably the Advent cap ships, and specifically probably only Wrath,
Oh.
because every other capital ship has some form of armor healing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Tempests will never break through armor healing.
Yeah, yeah. Armor patch and the
Yeah, the
Vasari
nanites,
regen.
the
That's
Scarantra, it's you just forget it at that point.
yeah, yeah. It just yeah. It kind of yeah. Almost yeah. It's out heals the damage. Yeah.
Yeah. I had 100 Tempest try to take down a Vasari cap, and he had two Scarantras, so even though I was focusing one Scarantra, it just wasn't doing
Yeah, they were
anything.
just healing each other. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so yeah.
yeah. But but that's part of the matchup. And I would also say, like, actually they don't really dominate the early game as much as people think, because the issue is they require a lot of maintenance and micro to really have them win against light ships.
Mm-hmm.
If it's light ship into like light frigates into Tempest, the light frigates actually win in a heads up. So
Mm-hmm.
like for example, in the Advent Mirror, you can actually go Radiance into Mass Disciples, and you will beat probably most Advent with a rush, with that as a dedicated rush.
Because you taunt the you taunt the Tempest, and you force them
Yeah,
to stay
exactly.
still. Ah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because the Tempest needs to run around. Yeah, true, true.
yeah, exactly. And you just heavily
Mm,
trade them, and they can't even run away later then either.
yeah, yeah. The Radiance has a taunt. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, true. All right, and the Vigilist, the last frigate on this list. Then the
The Vigilus is a cruiser.
oh, it's a cruiser. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. My bad. All right, so we're getting into the cruisers then. We have the point defense option for Advent. Um, so I don't see these
Situation,
too
no
often,
tier.
which makes me see it's going in, which makes me think it's going in situational, right? Yeah, did you say that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would
Yeah.
say it's behind the Tempests because once again, it's that weird scenario where it comes out at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
If the Vigilist was tier 2, it probably would be great,
Ah,
actually. Because it would do decently into light ships. Because it has a lot of guns that actually can do some damage to light ships. It
mm.
will handle all corvettes.
Yeah, it would
It's
destroy
bulky.
corvettes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's bulky. It gives you the PD you need, all that stuff, right? So at tier 2, it would be it would be amazing. But at tier 3, it's just what would you rather have? Would you rather have illuminators, or would you rather have vigilances?
Yeah, yeah, and you don't really like it's an investment to research both, right? You don't want to like
It's
research every ship. That's too much. So
correct.
you want to be selective about your research, and then yeah, why you need to get illuminators and vigilists. Yeah, that's a bit
Yeah,
much, perhaps.
yeah. And also, as you know, Advent ships always cost two of a type, right?
Oh,
So it's
what did
either
you say? They cost two of a type.
two different resource types.
Oh,
having to
right.
ship.
Yeah. They don't
Yeah,
cost all three
yeah,
resources. Yeah, that's true.
and
Yeah.
and that's actually another reason why acolytes are like really bad. Because do you know what what the acolyte resource types are?
No, but
Y-
I would guess crystal and credits, but I might be wrong.
Yes, it's the absolute worst one,
Oh,
crystal credits.
okay. Yeah.
Because you build a lot of acolytes and you end up with a lot of metal, which
Uh-huh.
then doesn't help you build anything.
Uh-huh.
So the other
Yeah.
issue with the Vigilus is it's sharing the same cost spread as your Illuminators.
Uh, so because does the
They're both
Vigilus
credit.
cost
Yeah,
credit and
they're both.
crystal?
They're both credit metal, if I recall.
Oh, they're credited metal. Oh, okay. Yeah, so then you end up with like excess crystal that you don't do anything with if you build both.
Right, exactly.
Right. All right. So, but you put this in situational still. So, in what situation would you get this? Do you think?
Um, that's a great question. I cannot actually think of any scenario where I would build the Vigilus right now.
Okay.
So maybe
Yeah.
even go to avoid now that you mention it.
No,
I feel it's like a little
no,
because I
Vigilus,
feel it's
no.
a little bit better. I feel it's a little bit better than like, the acolyte. But like you just said, right? So let's say the early game. Let's say your early game, you're into Conrax. Well, Disciples absolutely murder Conrax
Yeah,
early game.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
So
should
that,
never.
yeah,
So you're not. You shouldn't actually have an issue with Conrax as Advent. I know people used to because, but what I think people forgot was that was a different meta with a different patch, all that stuff, and that was because it was Conrax with capital heavy dominance. So you had
yeah,
nothing that could contest their capitals because you can't keep your capitals on the field. Their
yeah,
capitals are murdering your ships because you have subcaps only. So
yeah,
they could just have Conrax that threaten your capitals and you can't do anything then, right? Back then. But now it's like, well, they probably should only have like four capitals if they have math Conrax at most. They probably only have like two or three capitals.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then at that point, you show up with 100 like disciples. You don't care. You'll mow down the Conrax.
yeah. Disciple, yeah, and they're yeah. Disciples crush Conrex. Yeah,
Yeah. And then if you go to like Javel, like what by the time Javelies make it into play, I don't think Javelies would trade well into Illuminators at all. I suspect they wouldn't. But
yeah,
once again, same idea. Actually, Disciples absolutely crush Javelies for cost too.
yeah, yeah. I
So
think that's I think Yavalis is like also the only like thing I could think of where Vigilis would be kind of super annoying for. I mean, if you're playing tech and you're building Javelis, so you have like 50 Javelis, and the Advent player shows up with just like 20 Vigilis, I think that would be super annoying for
yeah,
to deal with. But yeah,
that's true. But the Advent player also could show up with like 60 Illuminators.
yep.
You're
Yeah,
probably
so
more
yeah,
scared of
once
that.
again, it's the trade-off, right? Yeah, once again, it's the
Yeah,
trade-off.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
the big
yeah,
problem. Like I said, they don't have like every time you think about like, oh, maybe I could build this here, but you just have a better ship usually to build.
yeah. Yeah, so
So I think actually Vigilus probably goes into a void tier because now that you asked
uh,
the question of when would I
um,
ever build
uh,
it, like I just think,
okay. Okay.
yeah, I just think you never do.
Yeah.
Because you can even make the argument like so like for example Percherons, right? Percherons are starting to see more play into the game and so forth, but Halcyon Teleconnect Push is very good against Percherons.
Hmm.
Um, and also you can always, as Advent, your cap ships already have a lot of native strike crafts, so you can shift them all into fighters.
Oh, yep, yep. Yeah, and then then you have like a point defense solution against Strikecraft at least.
Yeah, but you don't really need it once again, right? For the same reason, because
Oh
you
no,
have other answers.
yeah. Yeah, I thought of fighters as point defense, but yeah. You don't need the vigilist because you have the Strikecraft. Yeah. Yeah, and we have the strike coming up next. So we have, yeah, the drone host. This one is cool as well.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Um, I think the drone host probably goes into solid. I think it still needs a lot of experimentation. It's the funny thing is I'd say drone hosts should belong in solid tier, but they're technically situational in terms of when you have to realize they should be used. Um, I think if you see like a scenario where the map is essentially going to be people have to jump in and take the offense to you in the grab wells, like the bigger grab well. Drone hosts are very good, I think, right now because of in those scenarios.
Hmm.
But the issue with drain hosts is they're kind of like a big commitment. So you have to read those situations where you want to use drone hosts very early so you can start building them to a critical math.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because if you only have if you start building drone hosts midway into the game, drone hosts are totally useless. Because you're going to show up with like 8 drone hosts. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah,
So
you
drone hosts
have.
are
Yeah.
scary when you have like 40 of them.
Mm,
And to get 40 of them, like at the timer where they're most dangerous, which is going to be roughly about probably like the 40-minute mark, you need to start building them very, very early because they take a long time to build.
yeah. Yeah, and there are a lot of there's a yeah, they're very expensive. They cost a lot of supply. Takes a long time to build, but
Yep.
very good once you have them in large numbers. Is that yeah?
Yeah, but you need that critical mass. It's just like every
Oh
strike
yeah,
craft. You need the critical mass for them to be threatening,
yeah,
and that's why I said you sort of need to like know when you should start committing to them very early, and then attack at the right time with them. Like really push your advantage with them.
right. And you
But I
would
think
say, yeah,
I think they should be they should there should be more exploration with drone hosts for sure.
yeah. So we put them in solid for now. Do you think?
Yeah, I think they should go in the front of solid tier.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And you said, yeah, about 40 drone hosts is about the critical mass usually, or 30 perhaps, 30 or 40.
I think 30 to 40 at the very least.
Uh huh. Right, right.
Yeah, because drone hosts really more than anything benefit from that alpha strike. The initial the scenario that you really want to see with drone hosts is that the bombers are on a cap ship as you guys are fighting, and the initial volley already gets the cap ship red, because then the opponent will almost always panic.
Yeah, yeah, and you won't have time to react to send your
It,
capital ship away in time.
exactly, and they kind of would start playing badly for the most part.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things. If you're surprised by the drone host damage, it's difficult to gauge how much damage they will actually do because sometimes they don't. Feels like they don't do anything, and if you
Yep.
have enough of them, it just, oh shoot,
Yeah.
that was a lot of damage. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. In many ways, it's actually a lot like the Ogrov, where the first time it's shooting, the damage doesn't quite register until it's too late, and then because of that scenario, like to human beings, it's very cerebral because your cap ships are like fine, and then instantly it's in the red. So as a result, like you really start questioning what your judgment is of the fight itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's difficult to yeah, you don't know whether you're winning or not, and so on. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and Guardians. I think Guardians are kind of like Hoshikos, right? They're going somewhere way up here, right?
Yeah, they're in the OP tier. They're better than Hoshikos because Guardians are very cheap. I don't know about Hoshikos, but Guardians are very, very affordable for Advent because they're
Mm-hmm.
metal crystal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also often your Guardians are you start with the Greater Factory and there's nothing else for your Greater Factory to do anyway except
Yeah.
just build nonstop Guardians.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Guardians have are just so especially as Reborn once again cleanse it just raises the Guardian stocks a lot because cleanse the Guardian you give 1200 heal to your entire fleet, and friendly fleets too.
Yeah,
Like on demand, 1200 heal instantly. It's just pretty crazy, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
and
of
then
course mend, yeah, at tier 3. Auto research at tier 3 is mend.
yeah,
Same idea.
yeah, yeah. That's what I thought that Guardians outscale Hushiko slightly, but that Hushikos are a little bit better at like tier 2. That's been my impression, but
Um, I don't think so. Because the thing is, so the Advent classical timing outside of a pure your opponent built less fleet than you, so you should just rush into them. The typical Advent attack timing is to wait till Guardians. Because Guardians actually turn a lot of the Advent early losing and slash cannot fight matchups into more even or winning matchups.
mhm.
So, like
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example, fighting the Volcras, fighting the Marza, you just can't do that as Advent early game because your cap ships will always lose the 1-on-1 against them early game.
they die too quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. But once you have Guardians, once you have that supporting fleet of disciples, you really turn things around because your disciples become super durable with Guardians. And that's the big key because Hoshikos don't really make your kobolds that much extra
Oh,
durable.
oh, they make the they do make the disciples more durable as well. I thought disciples were kind of I thought that they would be still kind of easy to kill, but guardians make such a big difference, huh?
Yeah, yeah, because half the shield damage is going to be absorbed by the Guardian, right?
Yeah,
So your disciples are essentially lasting roughly about 2/3 as long.
yeah, yeah,
Or I'm sorry, 1/3 as long, which is, a 33% like life expectancy increase across the board for disciples. It's pretty significant. And then on top of that, as I said, if you're reborn with cleanse, then your disciples like practically never die
yeah. You
because
just
the
keep,
main
yeah,
thing is going to be AoE, and Guardians completely shut that down.
yeah, yeah.
And it's pretty easy to do it too. Every time you see the AoE, you just press cleanse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the shield you have like infinite shields at that point.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and the last, no, not the last cruiser. We have several cruisers left, but the
Yeah, we have two
Domina,
more.
it has this one has two abilities as well. One you have to research, if I remember correctly. Uh,
Yes, the antimatter train, which is, in my opinion, the stronger one, but that's a tier 4 research.
yeah, yeah, because the antimatter drain can be kind of a game changer against Titans, right?
Yeah, so especially the Vasari Titans, because the Verostra and the Koltorask, they are actually very hard for Advent Cap to like actually kill because Advent Caps don't do that much damage. So usually you need like Destras to start punching through Titans. But Destras are close range. So the Verostra can eat them, and then the Koltorask can stun them. But of course, without antimatter, then your Destras can just go to town and on the Titans.
Yeah, yeah. And what's the other ability? I forgot. They have the drain antimatter, and then they have like a stun,
Yes,
right?
they have it disabled on subcaps and I believe structures, single targets.
Oh, you
Um,
can do on structures as well. That's cool.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty good, but it's very expensive on antimatter. I believe you basically get like a little under two casts with the antimatter that you start with.
Oh,
I
okay.
think you I don't think you could cast it twice at full antimatter. I think you cast it once and then you wait for it to come back and then you cast it
Oh,
again.
does it work on star bases? Just curious.
Never try. So I never tried because, as you know, there is an advent cap ship that the moment you see a starbase, you should build that cap ship.
Oh yeah, this one. It is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually never tried.
yeah,
And I think that's another reason why, like, some advent ships they just get overshadowed by other ships or other things. So yeah, I think the Domino is a great ship, but overall, like you're not like I think you have to kind of like find the time to use it. And if I'm correct, the Domino does not cost credits.
Oh,
So
maybe it
that's
doesn't.
actually
No.
really nice. That's actually very, very nice. But I would say the Domina is probably deserving of great tier. It just requires you to actually build that kind of comp with the Domina. So for example, like against Parkas, against oppressors, Dominas are actually quite nice. But once again, you have that weird scenario where like illuminators are in the same timing, right? And illuminators can also answer them.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's just always about that
yeah,
opportunity
yeah,
cost. But I do
exactly.
think dominators are in great tier.
Yeah. And I mean illuminators. They're I mean obviously then illuminators should go in great here, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I mean that's the thing, right? Illuminators right now are just such an overall well-rounded option. It's like you can't go wrong with them. It feels like.
Mhm. Yeah. The only thing that really stops illuminators is carriers in the correct situation and titans.
Okay, carriers and
And
titans. Yeah,
yeah, and funny enough, light frigate mass at the correct timing
yeah,
because you have to mass illuminators like at a later timing than somebody who masses light frigates.
yeah,
So somebody who is massing light frigates pushes you early, they could push you off during your vulnerable illuminator timing.
yeah.
And they could actually because light frigates actually trade very well into illuminators themselves. Especially now that the Guardians got nerfed.
Oh, they got nerfed. I didn't even know that, but they're still in
Yeah.
OP tier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they still are because they're
very
still
good,
very,
very
very
good.
good for what they do, right?
Yeah,
Because Men did not get nerfed, and Men is like insane.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's a heal as well.
yeah, Mend is insane, and it's also just like cleansing Guardians is just so good for
Mm-hmm.
Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
for Wrath, Guardians are probably great tier because, like I said, the nerf, right? And you don't have cleanse, but
Mm-hmm.
I just think they probably deserve to be an OP tier still. Um, I don't know, it's weird. Technically, a lot of ships is probably just in great tier.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Saying it's putting it in OP tier. I'm not sure if that means it's OP necessarily. Uh, it just means it's
Yeah, but it's
kind of
just
a cut
necessary.
above the
It's just
rest. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
exactly. You're just always building it. Like there's
Yeah,
never a matchup where you don't build
yeah.
guardians.
You always want guardians, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you don't build guardians, you're doing something wrong, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still remember when somebody asked me in the the Sins 2 gameplay advice chats about do I stop building guardians at any point? And I just say like I never stop building guardians.
No, no, they're so good. They're so good.
Yeah.
It's like 30% reduced damage. It's like
Yeah, and then on top of
give
that,
me.
like I said, because when you have more guardians, you can slam that mend over and over again on your cap ships mid game.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, and
after a
then
while, like everyone starts targeting your cap ships, and you just keep slamming mend on them.
yeah, yeah, and you keep cleansing, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit. You mentioned the Destras. So where do we want to put this? I think I would put them in solid. Do you agree with that?
Ooh, I
Uh,
don't agree. I've liked
oh,
Destras for a long, long time.
oh, okay,
There
okay.
was at
So we're
one
gonna go.
point when Destras were probably the best Advent subcap. In fact, I think it still is. I think Destras is probably in great tier, like above the Illuminators.
Oh, really?
Like for example,
Really?
yeah, if you're at a Destra timing and you have the plasma weapon research, you should just be building Destras at that point
Oh, really? Really?
as your
Okay.
subcaps of choice. Because at
Oh,
that timing, you are going to be having capitals more readily. Um, and Destras do not actually get countered by anything in the game.
oh, okay. So what's the deal with the Destra? Like, is it because it's quite cheap? I think it's quite cheap,
Yeah,
right? That's it's
correct.
is that the main draw? Is that the main draw of the Destra?
So the way so people I think of Destras, the thing was they always thought of them like Ogrovs, like specialized anti starbase capital ship Titan sort of ships, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But what if I told you you have a Harka that could kill capitals and Titans and starbases as well?
Oh, yeah. Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the Destra. That's actually
Okay.
the Destra.
Oh wait, now
They
it's
are
going up here.
because
Now
they're
it's going up here.
no, 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 no,
No.
no, no, no. Because they come in tier 4, right? They're tier 4. So
Yep.
that's the
True.
main thing. If
True.
if
True.
they were tier 3, they should go up in the OP tier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but they're basically like the Harka, but they could kill like everything in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
and yeah, like I said, they don't actually lose to anything in the game, either. Yeah, they will not necessarily outtrade Illuminators. But the thing is, if you show up with Destras and they show up with Illuminators, your Destras will just kill their supporting Titans so much faster.
Oh yeah. So
And
just.
meanwhile, like yeah, their Titan, like let's say you both let's say you both have like the Erotica, right? That the Erotica with the Destra side is gonna win so much harder
Mm-hmm.
because the Erotica just ignores the Illuminators and they
Uh,
AOE spam
uh,
the Illuminators down.
uh. But the
Uh
Destra, what's the durability of the Destra? Like, in a one versus one fight between Illuminators and Destras, does like the Illuminators beat the Destras, right? Like, if we're
No,
just
not one
talking.
versus one.
Oh,
But
okay.
at supply, the Illuminators should beat the
Oh,
Destras.
okay. Okay. But
Yeah,
but for the
because
time,
Destras are
yeah.
14. Destras are 14, and Illuminators are 8.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
generally, you have a little bit under one, like two, a little bit under two Illuminators per Destra. So that's where the Illuminators advantage comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, but for the time when they show up, when there's usually a Titan on board, there's a bunch of capital ships,
Exactly.
then the
Yeah.
Destroy becomes much more
Yeah, they're the
useful in
perfect.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. They come at the exact perfect timing. And they're very They're like they're by far the tankiest advent ship. Let me actually pull up the stats of the Destra right now. Just as a kind of like a quick aside. Just to so
Yeah.
you have an idea of like what I mean by And then actually, you know what? It would probably be good for me to like just kind of pull up the Destra at stats, and then I'll pull up the Harka stats, the Illuminer stats, so you kind of get a sense of what I mean.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I have
so,
the wiki here. I could actually
oh, you
just
do? Okay, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I
So
have
why don't you pull? Yeah,
yeah.
why don't we pull up the wiki real quick? Then
Yeah,
that's even
sure.
better.
Sure. So we can go to where do we have? Here we have the Destra.
Yeah. So
Uh
look at the cost. Look at the price.
yeah.
Oh no, that's not the Destra.
Here we
That
go.
was the Tempest. Yeah. So it's metal crystal, which you have a ton of at this point by
Yeah.
the time it shows up,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
350 armor, 400 durability.
Oh, 400 is a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah, and if you compare it to like the Harka, right? Because that's essentially, like I said, you want to think of it as the Harka. Uh,
Right. I'm gonna see if I can find
and
it.
and the Harka is a good ship. So
Yeah, the Hork is very good. It's very good.
yeah,
Let's see.
heavy
Oh, there we
cruisers,
go.
right?
Here we go. Right. Yeah, here we go.
And
Here's
look,
the Harka. Yeah.
yeah.
Also 400. So
So,
it's the same as the Destra. Uh, yeah,
but
it's
you'll notice 200 pierce instead of the true damage that
oh
the Destra is doing.
yeah, the Hark has 200 pierce, and then we have the Destra who's 1,000. That's yeah, that's yeah, that's a
Yeah. So the
massive.
Destra is yeah.
Yeah, it's a massive difference against like capital ships and titans for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
so
why I
it
said the best way to think of them is they're Harkets that could kill everything.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, very the effective DPS is much higher, of course. Yeah, but since the Pierce is so much better. A very
Yeah.
long build time though. Just noticing 56 seconds. That's a lot. And
Yeah. That is like that is one of the downsides of the Destra, but like I said, it's a very very quality ship. I really like it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you
Overall,
have yeah because one thing that's different than the Harka is you have the Harka with the 400 durability and the like 1000 armor, right? But 1050 shield. Don't forget that the Destra has shield burst.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So you have that extra armor, 350 armor buffer, just for the shield burst to come back.
right, right. It has a lot of shield as well. Thousand
Exactly. Yeah.
shield. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
affected by the durability too. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
That's a lot. That's a lot of effective health. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, very nice. And also not too shabby armor either. Like armor strength
For an
50.
advent ship, no.
Yeah,
Correct. Exactly.
that's very good. Yeah. Yeah, very tanky, very tanky. Long build time, a 15 supply, but yeah, looks it's looking very, very. I'm convinced about the Destra. This looks very nice.
Yeah, it's a very underutilized ship amongst people. Like, it's funny because I'm one of the few that like really masses Destras, but then it really catches people off guard because
Yeah,
they just
yeah,
don't they don't die to anything. Like they can shrug off. Like if you have like 60 Destras, you could shrug off like 70 Illuminators
yeah,
while you
yeah,
kill their cap ships. Like
yeah,
you'll lose like 3 Destras by the time you kill a cap ship. Like
yeah, and especially with Guardians as well. And yeah, oh my gosh,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. This looks, yeah, yeah. The tanky Advent build, the tanky Advent build,
yeah,
and also a tanky ship, the Radiance. Now we're getting into the capital ships here.
yeah.
Uh, very tanky, the tankiest Advent capital
What do you
ship,
think
high
of the
reach.
Radiance as a tech player?
Yeah, I mean,
What do
of
you think?
course, facing the Radiance as tech is very annoying because, uh, I mean, basically any frigate is completely at the mercy of the Radiance, and also the Harkers as well. Like the mid
Yeah,
game option, the Harkers are like the Harkers can't really kill the Radiance unless there's like you have a super high number of them. Yeah, so then you need missiles, but the missiles are kind of they don't really do too well against anything else other than the cap ships of the Advent player. So the Radiance just very very annoying to deal with, and it's not much I would say. Yeah, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Um, yeah. So from the tech perspective, the Radiance needs to be in great tier as well. I feel like.
yeah.
Uh,
The Radiance is the top of the grade tier for me. I think it's
okay,
actually
okay.
the best ship in that in.
Yeah, yeah.
I yeah,
Because the animosity taunt is the key thing here, right? It's the fact that it can soak up all the attention from all of the frigates and just leave all of your other ships to just fire uh, undisturbed.
I think the Radiance actually has all good spells. Like all the spells are good, so you can choose to how to level up the Radiance. The Radiance does require the most micro out of all the admin cap ships to really leverage well. Um, but I think it's their best cap ship for sure. For
Okay,
sure.
yeah. Because what
Um,
does it have? It has animosity, which is the taunt, and then it has detonate antimatter, and it has
for
some
the silence. Yep.
yeah, the silence, and then it has some psi power stuff, right? That's it.
It has weapon so the third ability is every time it gets shot, it will get a temporary buff on both the psi and the weapon reload, which
Ah,
of course synergizes very well with psi kinetic armor, which is actually the main thing you should be rushing on the Radiance every single time. So I have a special build with the Radiance where basically I open the Radiance and then what I would do is my first white will go to psi kinetic armor.
Oh, and
And
what's that? Is sorry, just so I know, is what's that? That's a research for a ship item.
yeah, it's a research for a ship item, and what it does is it increases the armor stat and the armor strength by 50%. And the
50%.
radiance
Oof.
50%,
Oof.
50%. And the radiance is the highest armor advent cap ship
Oh, yeah, that's yeah,
by a
50%.
noticeable
That's
margin.
insane. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's super
But
tanky.
keep in mind that the advent caps are not like Basarian tech. Advent cap like the radiance only if you look it up, I think it only has 1,000
Yeah,
armor.
the base armor strength is not too great, I guess, but still 50% is quite good, I
Yeah.
would
So
suspect.
you go down
We get
down.
I'm blind. Here we go.
Yeah, advent. If
Advent
you go to
cap
capital ships and you check the rating, I think it's only like 1,000 or something.
armor strength 80.
Yeah, it's roughly about 1,000. No,
Yeah.
no, armor points. Sorry, no, it's armor points. 50% armor points.
Oh, 50% armor points. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Right. Yeah, but okay. So it does make a difference, but since the armor strength, okay, it's quite
yeah,
good
and it
armor
also adds
strength still.
about. I think it adds about 30 to the armor strength. If I recall.
Oh,
So
okay, that's
usually
good.
I end up with something like 110 armor strength, and then like 1,500 armor, which of course is very good synergy with Guardians and Shield Burst.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it greatly increases the ability for the Radiants to like kind of like survive on the field through animosity and stuff, and take kind of like taking the brunt of the enemy damage.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this makes I really like this for Advent that they have all of these synergies between the ships because that's yeah I like that theme of it because I've always felt like with Advent that they're kind of supposed to be the race that in a death ball nothing can beat them, right? And this is one of
I
those
think
ways.
on paper it looks good. We might see that now that there's more subcap play. But funny enough, in the capital ship meta, cap spam meta, Vasari probably has better synergy combos than the Advent.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because if you think about it, right, they have Scarantra to heal each other. They have the Marauder to phase out anything that's getting focus fired. They have the Volcaras to focus fire at like any capital ships down. They have the Quartal which can lower armor of capital ships they're shooting. Whereas the admin fleet, it doesn't really have anything that synergies with each other in a cap ship fleet. Like
Yeah, I
you
would
can say
guess.
like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, it's true.
Rapture animosity with their vengeance, but like you can't animosity capital ships.
Yeah, yeah, it's only for yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe it's a bit better than now that capital ships will become
Yeah,
more
yeah,
difficult
yeah,
to
yeah.
get. But yeah, I agree. For capital ship meta, this is perhaps a bit underwhelming. But in any case, um,
But
very,
yeah,
very,
Radiance definitely in the top of grade tier for
yeah,
me.
very strong ship. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you can
Uh,
already guess that every other cap ship is below it.
okay, yeah, yeah. Not even lowering grade tier, but they're going to be somewhere around here then, I guess. Okay. So
Well, the progenitor, yeah. Um, the progenitor has the crappiest colonizability out of all the colonized cap ships. It has the worst utility ability out of all the colonized cap ships. It has decent guns and tankiness, but yeah, just kind of like meh. Now, the progenitor got a stealth buff in that it doesn't cost a white anymore.
mm,
If the progenitor costed a white, it would go into situational tier for me for sure.
mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm.
advent whites can be used for the armor item, it could be used for sanctuary spire, so there's just better uses for whites than the
Oh yeah, yeah.
progenitor. But now that it costs a blue and two yellows, it probably goes into solid tier. It's still a cap ship, so it might be, I would say, below the drone hosts for me. But
Right, right.
yeah, but I would say it's a solid tier. You could still build it. Um, it'll save you some money with Unity. The annoying thing about the progenitor is that shield its shield cast is a channeled spell,
Oh, so it can be
so it leaves the
interrupted.
progenitor. It's not just that; it leaves the progenitor very vulnerable because it stands still the entire time.
Oh, okay. Oh, it has to stand still as well. I see.
Yeah, yeah, and if you leave it on autocast and you're running the progenitor away because it's getting focus fire, it will autocast the shield regen on itself
Oh, oh,
while it's running, and then die.
oh no. Yeah. Oh, that's yeah.
So you actually always have to remember when you're kiting the progenitor to turn off the actual
Oh,
autocast.
yeah, yeah. That's very annoying. Yeah, yeah. Have you? I'm guessing you've lost. You've learned that the hard way. I'm guessing.
Yeah. But those are things that like people who don't play Advent that
Yeah.
often or they're not paying as much attention, they don't realize it.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Okay, and the Rapture. The Rapture was one of the staple starting capital ships. I think before, right? I'm not sure if it is now.
No, it's not anymore. It's seen better days. Um, the Rapture is it actually has good guns. It has decent speed. Vertigo is very, very good. Dominate is has its matchup usage. But the problem is the Rapture used to be your most spammable capital chip because it costed two blues and one yellow
Mm-hmm.
pre-patch.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant that like you can always just build multiple Raptures. And then multiple Raptures are not that bad because at the very worst, it means they auto kill a cruiser. You could think of it like that, right? They have a spell that auto kills a cruiser at the beginning of fight, which
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
mid game fights is can obviously swing a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
you're basically you
Yeah.
auto steal the Guardian, you auto steal Hoshiko, you auto steal like Harkas. They add up. But now Raptures cost one red and two yellows.
Oh, yeah. They switched around a lot of the cost of the capital ships also.
Yeah. And almost always you will want it basically once again comes down to opportunity cost. Would you rather save up for half for your Radiance or Halcyon, or would you rather have a Rapture? And the answer is always gonna be you'd rather have the other ships.
Yeah, because they also cost reds. Mm.
Y- Yeah. So
Oh, so
I would
both the Radiance and the
Halcyon cost two
yeah.
reds.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot
And
of reds
now
actually for
yeah.
the.
And now the Rapture costs one red.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
So unfortunately I would say the Rapture probably goes down to solid tier. It still has its uses. The spells are still very good. I would put it at the top of Solitaire. It's the best ship out of everything comparatively here still.
Right.
Um, but the stocks of the Rapture really fell. Of course, Malice is like completely useless now.
Oh,
Um,
they nerfed Malice too. Okay.
yeah, with the down to 2%. Remember,
Yeah, I actually
which
didn't
is
pay.
like
I actually
not.
didn't pay attention to that. I
Yeah.
just I heard it got nerfed, but I didn't know how hard it got nerfed. But okay,
No,
that's
3%. It went from 20% damage spread to 3% damage
oh oof. So
spread.
okay, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
the
okay.
Rapture has seen better days.
I've seen better days.
Rapture
Yeah,
stonks. Yeah, Rapture stonks are falling,
yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah,
But still a very
they
solid
might.
ship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they might eventually go below the progenitor even.
Oh, even here.
Because just because
Okay.
of the yeah, because of the red cost. The red cost is just really annoying.
Okay.
But I still think it like ship quality wise, it's still better than everything in solitaire though.
Right. So
So I
not
would
bar.
say like move it to the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit movie at the top of Solitaire still. Vertigo is just still very good. Vengeance is actually quite good if you like properly use it, but it's so hard to properly use Vengeance.
Yeah. Okay, and then Halcyon or Halcyon or whatever you want to call it.
Uh, so I call it
t-
the Halcyon. The
Hal-
Halcyon. A lot of people will probably put the Halcyon ahead of the Radiance, but I don't think so. The Halcyon's main advantage by far is that it is a fast expander.
right.
But it is the best damn expander in the game, so at the very least, it is in great tier, very high up, in my opinion. So I put it right behind the Radiance.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also a good early skirmisher if you have the grab well for it. Like, obviously, if the Halcyon no, no, I th yeah. If the Halcyon is, like fighting something in a asteroid, you just probably are not gonna have a bad time with the House Iron. But it's fighting like in a planet system. It's very nice because you're just kiting around the entire
Yeah, it
time.
feels perfect then
And
because you can just run away with it and let the strike craft do all the work. And
yeah,
it
yeah,
hosts more strike craft than any other capital ship in the
yep,
game. So it's very
yeah,
nice for that.
yeah,
Since I've played a lot with the Sova recently, I actually tried the Halcyon a little bit on the side, and I must say it does feel like a Sova Carrier 2.0 in that it expands
yeah,
super fast. It has a lot of strike craft. It it has no trouble with missiles whatsoever. It
yep,
just feels very smooth to play with in the early game.
yeah. The only thing you'll notice about the House Iron is it's super flimsy.
Oh, it dies fast. It dies fast.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I
very
see.
squishy for a cap ship.
I see. I see.
Like if you pull up the stats since you have it on your third tab, just look at the so you have the you have the radiance here, right?
Yeah.
So radiance 1,000 armor roughly, give or take, 3,300 shields, 3,000 hull, right? Now if you look at the house ion, so the carrier right like basically two below it, and you're looking at 500 less armor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the moment your shield goes down, like you go to red almost immediately.
Yeah. 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 So it's kind of reliant on shield burst, but you don't really have that in the early game, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I think one mistake people make with House Iron is they don't pay attention to how much shield damage they're taking when they're expanding.
Oh.
So often what will happen is you see somebody show up within House Ion in like the first engagement. The House Ion only has like 1,000 shields left. So they go to instantly like red hull right away after like one Basari missile barrage.
Uh, yeah, and they just get surprised and the ship
Mhm.
goes down. Oh.
Yeah, yeah, and I think
Oh.
you remember that one scenario where like
Yeah, you just yeah, with the Volcrest especially,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it just says boom and then oh, what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one thing about the
Ah,
house sign that's a little misleading sometimes is how little armor it has that people it really catches people off guard.
okay, yeah. So it has some weaknesses there with the flimsiness, but I guess you can kind of make up for it if you have a large gravity well. As you said,
Yes.
you can kite
Yeah.
around. You don't have to take any direct engagement. You can kind of run around and be annoying. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
sure.
also the big thing about the house sign is the fact that the guns are not anti-cap if you look at it.
They're not. Sorry, I didn't hear you. They're not
They don't have
anti-capital.
good anti-capital ship guns in the direct fight.
Yeah, so we have 400 Pierce here, medium beam,
Yeah.
bombardment plasma.
No,
Uh,
bombardment plasma does siege damage.
oh yeah, that's the siege. Yeah, of course. PD
Yeah.
laser. Yeah, that doesn't matter in the capital ship matchup. Yeah,
Exactly.
this is the only thing.
Yeah.
And that yeah, that's what's that? That's 36 DPS.
Yeah,
Um,
at half damage, I think, right?
yeah.
Because it'll be 100 it'll be 100 pierce difference. I think that's like exactly half damage,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah. So you're really just you're really like you're really like just reliant on the
Eh, Yep.
the strike craft. Yeah.
Yeah. But as you can see, it's a perfect ship for expanding though, because it has perfect pierce for everything that's subcap.
Of course. Of course.
And then it
Yeah.
has the bombers, it
Yeah.
has the PD.
Yeah. Yeah. This is perfect for clearing 400
Yeah.
Pierce. Oof. Harkus just die. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And what about the last capital ship, the
Oh man.
Revelation?
So Revelation, it used to be pretty low, but Revelation stonks are like rising because once again the exotic cost changes.
Uh huh.
So Revelation used to be in the same situation that the Rapture is now. It used to cost a red.
Oh, and now they
So you
remove
would
that.
never want to, yeah, so you never want to spend on the Revelation because of half of a Rapture or a House Ion. So you'd almost always rather have the House Ion
Oh,
or the Rapture, right? So depending on what you're, or the radiance rather, it's depending on what you're up against. But now revelations cost 1 blue and 2 yellow, which you have but loads of, and they're actually a very, very good quality support cap ship because of both the reverie ability and the quell ability. The reverie ability is the one that shuts down a cap ship if you cast it on the cap ship and it doesn't take any non-shield damage. It puts it to sleep, and the quell ability will shut down any structures in an AOE. But the key to the revelation is that the revelation really wants the tiers, the second tier experience upgrade for Advent. And what's
Oh,
really
okay.
nice about Advent's
But
second grade, the experience upgrades, is that it does not cost them an exotic.
so yeah, so what's the I because I didn't quite follow. So you need a second tier experience upgrade. That's the one that gives you the experience for just
Level
getting the
3.
ship. So you start with
Yeah.
starting experience. Okay.
Yeah, so this way you get level 3. Because the reason why is level 2 revelation abilities are significantly better than level 1.
Ah,
I don't know if the wiki has the ability level scaling on it,
we can take a
but if
look.
it does, yeah, if it does, you'll see what I mean.
Okay, so the
So if you look
abilities
at,
basically scale well. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
here we
okay,
can
so
see.
yeah, so guidance is actually not that good, but look at for example, Quell or Reverie,
Yeah, okay, we can start with
either
this one.
one of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So notice, look, the scaling doesn't make sense at all. Look at the difference between level 1 and level 2, and then look at how bonkers it gets to level 3.
45. So let's what this actually do. It immobilizes a target ship for short in quotation marks period of time.
Right. Yeah,
Can be
because
used
level 1, yeah,
at
because
level
level
one. Yeah,
1,
at
level
level one.
1 is 15 seconds. Like, who
Okay,
cares, right?
15. Sure, that's a short
Yeah,
period
yeah.
of time.
Yeah, and the
45
cooldown is
seconds.
the cooldown is 30 seconds, and it costs 90 antimatter. So level 1 sucks, as you can see, right? Level 1 is totally pointless.
Yeah.
But then look at level 2.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Like,
Oh,
the
the
cooldown
duration is
goes
actually
down,
the
the
duration
antimatter,
is
and the
longer
duration
than.
doubles. The duration doubles.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
cooldown goes down, the duration doubles. So you see what I mean?
yeah. The
And
duration is actually longer than the cooldown, so
right,
you can
exactly. And
perma.
the same thing is true for Quell,
Oh, oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
It
this is
goes
why
up.
I said the revelation is really weird because level 1 or level 2 revelation, it actually completely sucks.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
level 3, it is so good all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Level 3, you go Super Saiyan with this one.
Yeah, exactly. Level 3 and onwards, it just super scales. So revelation is a very weird chip, but now the fact that it costs a blue and 2 yellows, it's very nice now.
Oh, they haven't
But
updated
yeah,
that
this is what it
here.
used to cost. It used
Yeah,
to cost a reverse house iron.
yeah, yeah. And they yeah now now you don't have need to get the spare reds. Much easier to get.
Exactly,
So it goes
exactly.
in
So I would
great. Does it go like? Does it go behind?
I would not put it above the Domina. I mean, I would not put it above the Destra or the Illuminator. I still think those two ships are too good, but I would put it ahead of the Disciple.
Okay, so right around here.
Yeah, and this is what I meant by like Advent. What's nice about Advent is technically a lot of their ships probably go in great tier. Like tech, as you mentioned, like now that I think about it, especially with the Guardian nerf, Guardians probably should be at the very top of great tier.
Oh, okay. Not, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Okay, so we can
yeah.
have like
Because
a lot
I
of
think
great
about what
ships.
you
Yeah,
had. Yeah, I think about what you had in the tech tier list, and the Guardian is just not like the Marza.
yeah,
The Marza like carries 50% of the tech on his shoulders, I think.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
the Angelon covers the carries the other 50%.
Mars and the Ankyllon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But like I don't think like any of these actually is true for the Advent fleet. I just think you have a lot of good ships with Advent fleet. Yeah, so I think Guardians, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, probably goes ahead of grade tier. I don't think it's an OP tier with the
Okay,
change.
okay.
Yeah, now that it's gotten nerfed.
So it's OP, but it's OP. Well, we can say it's OP because for Reborn it's OP, maybe.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember. Yeah. I think for reason.
We go for the Reborn. We go for the Reborn
Yeah.
Guardian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then now, okay, finally we get to the.
Which one you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I think maybe these guys should be discussed kind of
Yeah, which one do
simultaneously.
you want? Oh,
Uh,
simultaneously?
okay, we can go. Okay, start with Coronada. Coronada, the Wrath, Advent Wrath Titan.
I almost want to put it in the void here.
Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad that a Titan
Yeah,
would be in a
like
void, but
I think when it costed only one green and green was tier 3, um, you would have put it in the situational tier. But I just think that like, so you had to think, right? In a 1v1, you'll never want to bother building this because you're Wrath, and actually Wrath with the avatar on like a Destro mask just completely will destroy enemy cap ship heavy fleets, which is what you're gonna see later game, right?
Mhm.
Um, so the primary quote unquote good thing about the Coronata with the unity ability, the suppression, you don't really care about it because you have animosity, you have vengeance. I mean, you have vertigo by then, you have Destra, you have Illuminator to clear things up. Um, so why would you invest into tier 4 eco and then tier 4 like and then research and then spend 4 greens, build a Titan Foundry, save 150 extra supply left over for this ship? I just the only use of a Coronata at that point is that you could put Avatar on it, and it will be less likely to die. And then
Ah,
the other use is you could put Brilliance Array on it, so it will like give a battery to all your ships. Matt used to joke that the Coronata, the only good part about it was the carry artifact, which I kind of agree with.
ah. But what's
So
the
I think
problem? What was the problem with it? It doesn't
it
deal
just
enough
doesn't do
damage.
damage.
Yeah, it
It
doesn't
just
deal enough
doesn't do
damage.
damage.
I'm actually
Yeah,
gonna.
it's just
I actually
not
want to check here
threatening.
again. Yeah, I want to check what the heck. What the heck is the damage of this thing? What the heck is the damage of this thing? We get we get heavy beams. We get 8 heavy beams with 500 pierce. We get some medium lasers, 6 heavy plasmas. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't compared this to the other Titans, but
I mean, let's compare it to like let's say the Ankulon, right?
yeah.
I mean, we
Okay.
don't have to compare it to the Ankulon. The
Yeah,
Ankulon is
yeah,
like on its weight class of its own. Let's compare it to the Erotica.
yeah. Let's go. Let's
So
go
click
for
on the
Erotica. Yeah,
yeah Erotica. It's the
we
one right
jump to
above it, right?
Erotica here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we get. Yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah,
already
that's.
see the numbers. You already see the numbers.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You
That's a lot
already
of.
see the numbers.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I see the times 15s here and the times. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot.
Like look if you we go back to the Coronata for a moment, right? So the Coronata is 150 supply, right? That's exactly 10 Destras. Okay,
Yeah.
10 Destras will give a base 9.8 heavy plasma at 1,000 pierce each. So 10 Destras,
9.8. Yeah. So they give. How many heavy plasmas do you get?
one each.
Oh, oh. So
So it's
10 heavy
10 heavy
plasmas with.
plasmas at
Oh,
9.8.
okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's, yeah, it's
And
way
it's way
less.
cheaper. It's way miles cheaper than the Coronata.
Yeah. Okay, and what about the abilities? Can the abilities excuse the Coronata somehow?
Well, I mean, look at the look. Okay, look at the look at so let's look at this ability, right? Look at Unity mass base damage, okay? And it has a charging time. So it has 200 DPS,
Uh-huh.
okay? So it's 1,000 DPS. And now let's look at the coal experimental beam. It does 1,000 damage. Let's remember that, right? The Coronatus level 1 does 1,000 damage,
Uh-huh.
essentially.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the Pierce or whatever, but
Okay, so
it
now we
does a
look.
1,000 damage.
Okay,
Let's look
so
at the coal's experimental beam.
we have 8-second duration to 50. Yeah, okay, so it's more than 1,000. it's it's 1,600 damage for the level 3 call.
Yeah, so
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so there you go.
Oh wait, I have to look at this again real quick. So this is 1,600 uh
Advent Titan.
Titans. There we go. Granada.
I mean, there's no need for it to suffer
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. Uh, so it's
But of
indeed.
course, I mean, like a higher, it's better, right? But like but that's a level 6. Like you're way more likely to have a level 5 hull, and than a level 4 Coronata even.
Oh, but wait. Oh, but this is level 1.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so 5 sec. Oh, 5 seconds at level 1. Yeah, okay. But okay, so
Yeah,
yeah, I was comparing
yeah.
the
But this is
level
a Titan
3 call.
ability. This is a
Yeah.
Titan ability.
Yeah, 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 sure, but okay. I thought maybe to be fair, I should compare the level 1 cool to the level 1 Coronata ability,
No, no,
but
no,
yeah,
no,
okay,
no, no,
well,
no. This was a.
okay, well, we
It's
don't
not
have to
that
do
bad.
that.
It's not that bad. But it
Yeah,
was funny when Matt told me that the cold level 3 experimental beam does more than the Unity math at level
yeah,
1,
yeah,
because it's just you just don't expect that kind of thing from the Titan.
yeah. That feels like the
Yeah,
Titan should do more for sure, even at level 1. True.
yeah. Like I will say, if you had the option between a level 6 Marza versus a level 1 Coronata, everyone would take the level 6 Marza.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
will never be true for any other Titan in the game.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Well, we're sorry, Coronata, but you're not
Yeah, I
even
think it goes.
situational then, I guess.
Yeah, it does go in the top of a void tier.
Top
It
of a
goes in the
vault.
top of a
Okay,
void
that's
tier.
okay. It's a consolation prize.
Yeah.
And the final
Um,
Titan?
I think Erotica as a contract probably goes on the top of great tier, because of the Quarium nerf. If it was not for the Quarium changes and everything, the cost changes, Erotica would definitely be an OP tier,
Okay.
because it's completely unkillable if you're careful, and then it's just nuking fleets left and right.
Yeah.
Uh, but now all the times obviously got a pretty noticeable cost nerf with the Quorum. The timing is very slowed down now. I don't think that like you can just go for them all the time anymore. So because of that, I think it's like really good when you get it, like very, very good. But you have to invest so much that you don't necessarily have the supporting resources to make it so invincible at the time it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
But
very unkillable, but
yeah,
of course now with the Titan nerfs or the exotic changes, yeah, rather, all of the Titans and capital ships get indirect nerfs. So it's yeah, of course they're gonna go down a little bit, even if it's a very strong ship in itself. The cost is the investment is quite high right now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But Revelation went up because of the cost changes.
Oh, that's true.
Radiance,
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Radiance goes way up in my book because of more subcap play, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is probably the tier list. As I said, this is a Advent just has a lot of good ships. I think if you look at this, right, like very few, you can't really go wrong building one type of an Advent ship. If you just decide to like nonstop spam one type of an Advent ship, you probably can't go wrong building it.
Yeah, I was
You'll
about
do
to say, yeah,
something
there's a lot of stuff here up in like the great and solitaire, not too much in situational. Um,
Exactly.
Yeah. But that makes sense. I mean, some of these ships, perhaps these more utility-focused ships that you don't see too much, I would have expected them to go like in situational tier, but perhaps they're not just as utilized as they should be.
Yeah. The big thing about a lot of Advent ships is the fact that so you know how you said earlier that Advent they feel like they have this kind of like mixed fleet diversity thing. It's actually not true. Advent ships actually work a lot better if you just keep building more of the same type.
Okay. Well, yeah,
So
maybe that's how it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah. So if you want to go dominus, you actually want to go very extreme into dominus. You don't want to just get like 6. You want to get like 20.
Yeah, because you want
And
to reach a critical mass where you can just stun the major part of the opponent's fleet.
exactly, because you take out a large part of the opponent's fleet, you drain all the antimatter, right? Whereas
Yeah.
if you drain like 6 dominus worth of antimatter, who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same idea for like drone hosts, illuminators, Destras, disciples, etc. When they're not masked, they don't feel like that impactful. So you have a mishmash of everything. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything. But
Yeah,
when you
you
have
need a
like a big block concentration of one ship that you're upgrading all the way along, Advent ships are actually pretty good.
yeah. Yeah, you always need critical mass, and of course you don't want to you want to be selective about your research as well. Uh,
Exactly, and I think that that's one area where like Advent's actually very easy to play in terms of like why I said they have a low skill floor. I mean, a high skill floor because you can just decide I'm gonna build a ton of this ship,
yeah,
and then I
Mass
just attack my
Tempest,
opponent
let's
with it.
go. Let's go.
Well, even Mass Tempests. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Let's
can get
go.
one. Well, you could get off 4 planets. You can 4 systems. You can get 1,000 Tempests fleet supply, 1,000 fleet supply worth of Tempests by 30 minutes.
Yeah, I have to try that.
Yeah.
1,000 supply
So
Tempest. Yeah.
yeah, and then if you show up with like 1,000 Tempests when your opponent's like doing like kind of like just ecoing at 30 minutes,
Yeah.
you will run him over,
Yeah,
whatever he has.
yeah, it's just over. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But
So,
of course,
well,
I mean, your opponent should see you building 1,000 Tempests after, but like, because if he scouts, he should be seeing that you have 4 light factories at the front line building
if
Tempests
you
nonstop.
if they prepare, you can actually be
Yeah,
in some trouble. But
yeah, 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 yeah.
not
He puts
everyone
down,
prepares. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. He puts down 10 defenses worth of light turrets, and then all your 1,000 Tempests are useless.
Yeah. All right, but that's very cool. Thanks for helping me out with this, Kiss, and
Huh?
very cool tier list. We're going to perhaps do something for Vasari in the future, I hope. And
Yeah,
um,
it'll be fun.
do you have any
I
final?
actually have been
Do you have
playing
any
Pocket
final words?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, you had some final words.
Oh yeah, I said I've been playing a Pocket Vasari, so I actually have even thoughts on Vasari on my side. I'd love maybe we could rope Mathematical in for his Vasari opinion.
Yeah, that would be very
Mathematical
cool.
has some unorthodox opinions, but I mean he's just such a he's such a strong player. That I think he's just more ahead of the meta in terms of his thinking. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I mean, he thinks a lot about the game, and he's a
Exactly.
very serious player, and he's very. I mean, even if you disagree with him, he's very nice to argue with. So
Yeah, yeah,
we should definitely get him in here for Vasari.
yeah. But this was
Uh,
fun. This was really fun to chat a little bit about
yeah,
the
yeah,
ships.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming in here. I could never have done this myself, so that's very good. All right, but I'm gonna wrap up the video here. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next video.
See ya.